Welcome to another episode of the Millennial Management Podcast. I'm your host, Brandy, the Millennial Manager. You can follow me on social media under that handle, Brandy, the Millennial Manager, on everything, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Now, today is Wednesday, and we are doing an email episode. We do these every single Wednesday. We go over a few emails. It's normally about 3 or 4, depending on the length, and we discuss the scenarios and outcomes. Now, today we have an email from Betty, and it's short and straight to the point. It says, I got terminated as a manager for breaking policy, but I followed the protocol they gave for me to follow. She says, how do I handle a situation if I feel like I was racially discriminated upon? How do I move forward from this? Well, let me tell y'all, because we talked about this in our last podcast, that if you feel like there is something racially going on in your company or at your job, you need to be documenting. Otherwise, it didn't happen and it's a figment of your imagination. I'm so sorry, but that is the God honest truth. Also, if they fired you or terminated your position and they fired you because you were breaking policy, you also need to make sure that you do not work in a right to work state. And the reason why is because when you live in a right to work state or at will state, they can fire you at any point in time. So if they terminated you and it was because you broke the rules, but there's no documentation that shows someone told you to go against company policy, then you really are in between a rock and a hard place. And this is why, you guys, you have to document things when people tell you to do something that is against company policy, or just don't do that. Consult with upper management, consult with HR. You don't just have to go and do anything that people tell you to do. So I would just be very cautious. You can contact an attorney as far as like seeking legal advice regarding this situation. I definitely recommend that because it's a lot of messiness. Number one, do you have any documentation that shows you were racially discriminated against? Then, do you have any information that shows that they gave you the go-ahead to break company policy and then you were terminated, which could be seen as retaliation? So I definitely want you to seek legal advice. Definitely speak to a lawyer because this situation just sounds extremely messy. All right. Now, our next email, it says, I applied for an internal position, which for me would be a promotion. My question is, how do I represent myself as the best candidate for this position? I've currently been on my job for 4.5 years and was vertically bumped after 1.5 years and I have been in my current role since. The transition into this position was difficult at first, but I've since conquered that. But the new position is more client focused and deals with many more details. I'm positive about my skill set, but concerned that they will mention focus on my shortfalls or shortcomings. How do I overcome those questions? Well, this is where your problem-solving skills come into play. So we put these on our resume. We say that we can solve problems, but how have we really done it? And this is where not only do you acknowledge where you kind of stumbled at the beginning of the role. You stumbled trying to maybe retain information, or maybe you just kind of struggle in the process. But the way that you pivot that is by showing how you overcame it. So you don't necessarily avoid the question, because then you just are an avoider. You don't really want to address the problems that you have. If you want to really be realistic with getting into this role, you have to address that and show how you were able to pivot from that problem. And that shows that you have problem solving skills. Also, it shows that you are continuously learning. Talk about how you have maybe done some training, or if you have taken a course, or anything that has kind of improved yourself individually, and then also improved your skill set. So don't run away from that question. It's not something to shy away from. If anything, it kind of shows that you're able to acknowledge that problem and you were able to solve it. And because you're not running away from that question, it also means that you're able to deal with moments of confrontation. Because if you normally, when the person is kind of put up to that, they're going to be in the defense mode. Well, I have to defend myself. No. I'm going to acknowledge that, yes, I did have some issues when I first got into my role. However, once I learned, and I was able to do X, Y, Z. So don't run away from it. Also, make sure that you are paying attention to your work. So I want you to really review. I'm not sure what you do, or what industry you're in, but I would go back and review some of your deliverables, like things that you had to turn in previously, and look at your work now. Is it more polished? Is it more to the company standard? I would go back and review the things that I have submitted. If you work on projects or whatever it is that you've done, if you work numbers based, look at how you have improved the profits from the time you started in that role up until now. And then they'll really be able to scale it and see what you have done and how well you have improved. But do not run away from that question. Run to it. All right, y'all. So our last email is going to be coming from another Betty who is struggling with management in the workplace. I've been with the company for 11 years. In the beginning, I worked for 4 and was fired due to attendance. Returned, and now I'm going on my 7th year. Okay. My goal with the company was always to become a part of management or upper management. My work ethic is strong. I am driven. Customers love me. I'm well known. The company has placed me on overnight, and I feel like I'm being kept out of the spotlight to keep me from gaining knowledge or advancing in my career. She goes on to say that she feels like she's experiencing these issues while working with different managers, that she's being roadblocked. She's wondering if she should go to another store in order for her to advance within the company. And I'm going to tell you right now, okay? If your management is doing that, your company is doing that. Hear me again. If your management is blocking you from advancing, your company is blocking you from advancing. And going to a different store is not going to make a difference, because going to a different store really just puts you with a new set of management that you're going to have this same problem with. Now, one thing that I will say is that sometimes when you go to a different store, if it's in a different environment, like a whole other side of the country, like if you have that ability, maybe if your store is like a Target or a Walmart or something like that, maybe you can have a different experience. But if you work in the same community and these people get together, they know each other, you're really not going to experience anything different. Okay, so unless you're going to a different city or a different state, I don't think changing stores is really going to make a big difference. But let's just say that it does. You go to this company and you go to the new store and it's a happy ever after moment. You excel, you really prove yourself, and you are awarded a management role, and then you just continue after that. But let's say that does not happen. Okay, because there are two sides of this coin. So you could change stores and it's the same foolishness, and now you're having to find another job anyway, because what we fail to realize is that sometimes management is exactly what the company is. If the management is consistent with foolery, and they are always in some mess, it's always messy under this management, that's just not the managers. That is the company as a whole. They're unorganized. They lack opportunity for growth. And being that you've been in this particular role for 7 years, you should have been in management. You even said it yourself towards the end of your email that you feel like you are being overlooked, by people who are inexperienced and they are not qualified for these roles. So why would you want to continue working for a company like that? Ask yourself. They are promoting people who clearly do not have the ability that you have, because not only are you interviewing with your managers, you're interviewing with HR. They know that they're selecting other people over you. And this is past the management. This is the company. So this is where you really have to see a situation for what it really is. This is what happens when we are like really trying to push against the grain, when really you trying to make your blessing happen on the left when really it's on the right. New opportunity, new company. Take the experience that you have and apply it to a management role. You've already been in leadership. If you've been working there for 11 years, baby, you have done some leadership things. Whatever it is, I don't know exactly what your industry is and what type of store you work for, but I will say that if you've been working for the company for this long, I'm sure they have given you some type of leadership roles and responsibilities, but they will not give you the pay or the position. So what I want you to do is start writing down the leadership roles that you have, the leadership things that you have done as far as your tasks when you're closing the store, opening the store, whatever it is that you're doing, and it requires a special key, that is a leadership role. Okay? And I want you to start putting that in your resume. Write down and document all the things that you have done. And stop chasing something that is not going to happen. These people are wasting your time. And they just dangle the carrot in front of you just long enough, because then you just take a little bite and then you're happy with a little bite. You're happy with the extra responsibility. You're happy that you get to be with the customers and you get a little bit of praise, but not enough. Not enough to where they actually move you into position. And so what I want you to do is, number one, update that resume and really write down the things that you have done for this company. Write down, I want you to start writing down all of your roles and responsibilities like we talked about. And then I want you to start applying to companies outside of this one. Do not apply for another position at this company, because they want everybody but you. But you keep making them want you, and they're not. They're shaking their head no every single time. So don't waste your time. Don't waste your effort. Use that energy for your new job. All right, y'all. Now, this is the end of our email episode of the Millennial Management Podcast. We'll be back with a new episode on Friday. And I just want to go over the schedule really quick. So Monday, we have Monday Motivation. These are 2-minute episodes. They get you along your way for the work week. So they start with a quote. I discuss that quote, and then we're done. Wednesdays, those are the email episodes. These are 10 to 15 minutes, and we just go over email scenarios that I receive at themailmanagementpod@gmail.com. Send those questions if you have something that's scenario specific, like most of these were, or if you just have some general career questions, go ahead and send those there. And then also make sure you are following, because we update a brand new episode that contains content surrounding career tips. And then we also discuss, right now we're discussing behaviors in the workplace. So this week we discussed favoritism in the workplace. Last week was jealousy in the workplace, and we're just going to keep it going. And so if you have any questions specifically that you want answered, make sure you send them to themailmanagementpod@gmail.com, and make sure you are following so that you don't miss those new episode updates. And I will see y'all on the internet. Bye-bye.